My fiancé texted, "I fixed your work problem." Hours later, I realized she destroyed my passport to stop my trip, and her cruel plan ended our engagement instantly. I was wrapping up a client pitch when my phone buzzed with a message from my fiancé. "I fixed your work problem. No more business trips. You're staying home with me now, Redheart." At first, I thought it was some kind of joke. Kate always hated when I traveled, but she'd never stopped me before. Then the next photo loaded. My passport, shredded into a snowstorm of tiny blue and white confetti, sitting at the top of our kitchen trash can. My name's Logan, 30. Newly married 3 weeks ago, courthouse wedding, her idea. She wanted something intimate and simple. Now I realized she wanted something easy to control. My flight to London was in 6 hours. $1 million deal. Months of work. She knew that. My phone buzzed again. "You're not going. We need to focus on us." I felt my chest go cold. Around me, coworkers were still laughing, chatting, unaware that my perfect wife had just detonated my career with a kitchen scissors. I stepped out of the meeting, thumbed my contacts, and called my assistant. "Find me a place that does same-day passports." "But, Logan, your flight's tonight." "Exactly." She paused. "Is everything okay?" "Not yet," I said. "But it will be." By 3 p.m., I was standing in line at the emergency passport office in downtown Los Angeles, holding a Ziploc bag of torn paper like evidence in a crime. The clerk looked at the fragments, then at me. "Your wife did this?" "Soon-to-be ex-wife." He gave a low whistle. "Let's make that happen faster." 5 hours, 3 forms, and $350 later, I had a new passport. I sat in my car in the parking lot, watching the sunlight bleed through the windshield, and felt that strange mix of anger and relief. The kind you get when you realize your life just cracked open, and maybe that's not entirely a bad thing. By 11 p.m., I was at LAX, nursing a whiskey at the airport bar, watching my phone light up like a slot machine. "You're being childish. If you get on that plane, I'm changing the locks. You're choosing work over family." Family. She'd been my family for 21 days. I typed back one sentence. "See you in 2 weeks." Maybe. I turned my phone face down and let the bartender pour another round. The London trip went perfectly. I closed the deal, pocketed a massive bonus, and spent my off days walking the city, thinking. When I finally came back stateside, I didn't go home. I went to my brother's place in San Diego. He met me at the door with 2 beers and that look older brothers get when they've been waiting to say "I told you so" but also don't want to kick you while you're down. "Mom told me what happened," he said. "Yeah, she's thrilled." He nodded. "Dad?" He said she wasn't a wife. She was a warden. He grinned grimly. "Accurate." Then, after a beat, "She asked me 3 times at your wedding if you'd choose her over us." I blinked. "You're kidding." "I wish I was." She gave me the creeps, man. The way she watched you, it wasn't love. It was possession. That night, I finally scrolled back through the months of texts I'd ignored. Her constant guilt trips about my travel, the jokes about deleting my contacts, the little digs at my friends, all the red flags I treated like confetti. The next day, I met Madison. Not that Madison, but an actual attorney, a friend of my brother's wife. She specialized in family law, the kind of woman who wore navy suits and spoke with the calm precision of someone who'd seen every variety of domestic disaster. Over coffee, I told her everything: the shredded passport, the controlling texts, the rapid-fire wedding. She didn't flinch. "You've got clear grounds for annulment," she said. "Fraud, coercion, destruction of property. Slam dunk." "Annulment?" I repeated, letting the words sit between us. "So it's like it never happened?" "Exactly. Clean slate." I felt something shift inside me. For weeks, I'd been running on survival mode, damage control, logistics, work. Now, for the first time, I felt anger sharpen into direction. Madison leaned back. "You said she destroyed your passport, right? That's a federal document. You could report it. It's technically a crime." I looked at her, half smiling. "You're saying my honeymoon just turned into a case file?" She shrugged. "Stranger things have happened." That evening, I drove back to my empty house. The locks hadn't been changed, though the spare key was missing. The place smelled like her perfume and lavender candles. Cloying, fake calm. I stood in the doorway for a long minute before stepping inside. On the kitchen counter sat a note in her handwriting. "We need to talk before you do something you'll regret." I folded it once, twice, and dropped it into the trash beside the old passport confetti. Then I poured myself a drink, opened my laptop, and typed the first line of a new email to Madison. Subject: annulment, let's begin. Somewhere between the click of send and the sound of ice melting in my glass, I realized the truth. I wasn't escaping anymore. I was rebuilding. And for the first time in years, the idea of starting over didn't scare me. It thrilled me. 2 weeks later, I pulled into my own driveway, headlights sweeping across the familiar brick and the unfamiliar feeling of dread. Her car was there, silver Lexus, spotless as always. For a second, I thought about driving away, finding a hotel, pretending I'd missed my exit. But I'd already decided that running was over. When I stepped inside, the house looked staged. Candles burning on the counter, soft music playing. A dinner spread laid out like a magazine photo. She stood by the table in her favorite red dress, the one she wore when she wanted to win. "Welcome home, baby," she said, voice syrupy sweet. "I made your favorite chicken marsala." "Great," I said flatly. "I'm filing for annulment tomorrow." Her smile cracked like porcelain dropped on tile. "What?" "You heard me. Fraud, coercion, destruction of property. Madison's handling it." She blinked rapidly. "Over a passport?" "No," I said, setting down my suitcase. "Over control. Over you deciding what I'm allowed to do, who I'm allowed to be. Over you destroying my life to fix it." The mask slipped. The tears came fast, practiced, weaponized. "I did it for us, Logan. You're always gone, always working. I thought if you stayed home, we could start a family. You thought taking scissors to my passport was a conversation starter? I quit my job for you," she screamed suddenly, the sweetness gone. "I wanted to show commitment. I even added my name to the lease." "Added? You mean forged?" She froze. "You forged my signature, didn't you?" Her chin trembled. "Because I love you. Love doesn't look like forgery, Kate. It looks like trust." I walked to the bedroom, pulled my remaining clothes from the closet, tossed them into the open suitcase. She followed me, crying, pleading, shifting tones like she was auditioning for every emotion in one scene. "Please, Logan, we can fix this. I was just scared to lose you. You're everything to me." I zipped the suitcase. "Then love me from a distance." She moved in front of the door, her eyes glassy, her breath quick. "You can't just leave. You'll regret this. I'll tell everyone what you did to me. That you're abusive. Heartless." I stopped, looked at her, really looked. For the first time, I didn't see the woman I'd married. I saw someone who needed an audience, not a partner. "Try it," I said quietly, "and you'll meet my lawyer before the week's over." Her mouth opened, but no words came. I stepped past her, suitcase in hand, walked down the hallway I'd once called home, and out into the night. The air outside felt heavy and clean at the same time. I slid into the back of an Uber, gave the driver my brother's address. He glanced in the rearview mirror. "Rough night." "Something like that." "Divorce?" "Not yet," I said. "Give it 6 weeks." He nodded like he'd heard that answer before. As the car pulled away, I looked back at the house. The candlelight flickering through the blinds, the silhouette of her pacing inside. A set piece from a play I'd just walked out of. For the first time in months, I didn't feel anxious or guilty. I felt precise, controlled, in the way calm people are right before they dismantle the thing that tried to cage them. The next morning, Madison filed the annulment papers. Fraud, coercion, destruction of federal property, falsification of a lease. It was all neatly itemized in black ink. When the process server handed Kate the envelope that afternoon, she sent me one last message. "You'll regret this. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are." I didn't reply. I just forwarded it to Madison, who texted back, "Perfect. Extortion attempt. Keep everything. By that evening, my phone was quiet. No calls. No tears. Just silence. Clean, empty silence. I checked into a small hotel downtown, ordered room service, and sat by the window watching the city lights flicker. Somewhere below, life went on. People falling in love, arguing, laughing, moving forward. And for the first time, I realized I could, too. The world outside didn't end when I walked out that door. It was just waiting for me to start living in it again. Madison filed the annulment papers the next morning. Efficient as ever, her voice crisp through the phone. Honestly, she said, scanning the documents, this is one of the clearest control cases I've ever seen. You're lucky you got out early. Lucky. That word rattled around in my head like a marble in an empty glass. I didn't feel lucky. I felt hollow. 3 days later, luck ran out. It was a Saturday morning. I was in the hotel lobby getting coffee when the glass doors swung open and Chaos walked in wearing designer sunglasses. Kate. Her hair was wild. Her face streaked with mascara. Her voice cutting through the hum of conversation like a siren. Logan, you ruined my life. Heads turned. Phones came out. She was screaming about betrayal, about how I'd abandoned her, about how I'd stolen her future. The hotel manager tried to intervene, but she shoved past him, pointing at me like I'd committed a crime. Security arrived within minutes. 2 guards escorted her out while she kicked, cried, and called me a monster. Someone recorded it, of course they did, and within an hour it was online. A viral clip titled, Bride's Public Breakdown After Husband Leaves Weeks After Wedding. I filed a police report that afternoon. Madison met me outside the precinct, took notes as I described the scene. She'll escalate, she warned. People like her always do. She was right. By evening, the calls started. First from unknown numbers, then familiar ones. Her mom, her sister, her best friend. All with the same tone. Pity laced with venom. You broke her heart. She's been crying for days. She said you pushed her. That one stopped me cold. Pushed her? I hadn't so much as touched her. I called Madison immediately. She's saying I assaulted her. Let her try, Madison said calmly. We've got hotel footage of her attacking you in public. That's evidence, not her word. For a moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or throw up. A week later, I went back to the house with my brother to grab the last of my things. A few boxes, some files, my guitar. The place looked smaller, emptier, like it had already forgotten me. We were halfway through loading the car when she pulled up. Her Lexus screeched into the driveway like a storm arriving early. She jumped out before the engine stopped, barefoot, mascara smeared, still in pajamas. What are you doing here? She screamed. You can't just take everything. It's mine, Kate, I said evenly. You forged the lease, remember? She lunged for a box. My box, and I stepped back. My brother filmed everything on his phone while neighbors peeked through blinds, phones recording, whispering. Stop filming, she shrieked. This is harassment. You're trespassing, my brother said flatly. The shouting turned to sobbing, the sobbing to apologies, then back to rage again, her usual carousel of emotions. Eventually, she got back in her car, slammed the door, and sped off, tires squealing. That night, I sat at my mom's kitchen table, the quiet so thick it felt like a blanket. She poured me tea, placed a hand over mine. You did the right thing, she said softly. Didn't feel like it. She looked at me, that knowing, motherly look that sees straight through the surface. Sometimes doing the right thing feels like setting yourself on fire just to get warm again. I nodded, staring at the steam curling from the cup. That's exactly what it felt like. Burning everything down just to save what was left of me. 2 days later, the restraining order went through. Madison handled everything, airtight documentation, timestamps, footage, witness statements. Kate was officially barred from contacting me, showing up at my home, workplace, or family's property. The silence that followed was surreal. No more 2 a.m. calls. No more emotional grenades disguised as apologies. Just quiet, pure, undisturbed quiet. But quiet can be deceptive. It doesn't mean peace. It just means the storm's catching its breath. That night, I opened the hotel curtains and stared out at the city. Lights, motion, life continuing without me. I thought about everything she'd said, everything I'd ignored, all the red flags I'd mistaken for love. It was never about the passport. That was just the spark. It was about control, the slow, invisible kind that wraps around your choices until you can't tell where you end and they begin. And as I stood there watching the glow of distant apartments, I promised myself one thing. I'd never let anyone make me small again. 2 months later, the morning sun cut through the courthouse windows like a spotlight, harsh and too honest for anyone's comfort. My palms were dry, not sweaty, not shaking, just still. I'd spent the last 8 weeks living in limbo, and this was the end of the tunnel. Kate arrived 10 minutes late, naturally, swanning into the courtroom like it was a movie premiere. She wore a white dress, the same one from our courthouse wedding. The irony hit like a bad punchline. Even the bailiff glanced up, blinked once, and looked away. Her lawyer trailed behind her. A man who looked like he practiced law out of a strip mall. Shiny suit, shiny hair, no spine. He gave me a smirk that didn't quite reach his eyes. Madison leaned toward me, calm as ever. "Don't engage," she whispered. "Let the facts talk." The hearing began with procedural monotony, names, dates, confirmations. Then Kate's lawyer stood. "Your Honor," he began, with the faux gravity of a man who'd rehearsed in the mirror. "My client has suffered immense emotional distress as a result of Mr. Reeves's neglect and emotional abandonment. He prioritized his career over his wife, leaving her isolated and desperate." Kate sniffled on cue. Academy Award material. The judge, mid-50s, sharp eyes, no patience for theatrics, looked over the top of her glasses. "Emotional abandonment," she repeated flatly. "And in response, your client destroyed his passport?" Her lawyer hesitated. "My client acted out of fear." Madison stood smoothly. "If I may, Your Honor." Permission granted. Madison opened her folder and began her quiet demolition. "We have photographic evidence of the destroyed passport, which Ms. Reeves admitted to in text messages. She laid down each piece like an architect building a case from blueprints. We also have video footage from the hotel security cameras showing Ms. Reeves confronting Mr. Reeves aggressively and being escorted out by security. A police report corroborates this incident. Additionally, we have the lease document where Ms. Reeves forged my client's signature. Handwriting analysis attached. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Forged." Madison handed over the report. "Confirmed by 2 experts. She admitted it in a recorded conversation." Kate's lawyer sputtered. That was taken out of context." The judge turned to Kate. "Did you destroy your husband's passport to prevent him from traveling for work?" Kate's voice trembled. "I was scared he'd leave me." The judge's tone stayed measured, but the chill in it was unmistakable. "So you destroyed federal property, falsified a lease, and threatened your husband. That's not fear, Ms. Reeves. That's control." Silence fell over the courtroom like a dropped curtain. Kate's face crumpled. The performance faltered. She started to cry again, but this time no one was watching with sympathy. Even her lawyer shifted uncomfortably. The judge sighed. "Marriage requires consent, trust, and good faith, none of which were present here. Annulment granted. This marriage is void from the beginning." The gavel struck wood, and the sound was sharper than I expected. Not final like thunder, but clean, like scissors cutting a knot. Outside the courtroom, she found her voice again. "Everyone will know what you really are," she shouted, eyes wild. People passing by slowed, stared. Madison stepped between us, calm as ever. "Ma'am," she said, tone firm but polite. "You're violating your restraining order. I suggest you keep walking." Kate froze, then turned on her heel and stalked off, heels clacking like punctuation marks. Madison exhaled, then turned to me with a smile that actually reached her eyes. "Congratulations, Mr. Reeves. You're officially single." "Just like that?" I asked, half disbelieving. She shrugged lightly. "Just like that. Some endings don't need fireworks. Just a signature and a gavel." We shook hands. Her grip was steady, grounding. I walked out into the cool afternoon sunlight, breathing air that suddenly felt mine again. The first thing I did was drive straight to my brother's house. He was out front working on his motorcycle, hands greasy, music loud. When he saw me, he shut off the engine. "Well?" he asked. "It's over," I said simply. He grinned wide. "Hell yeah, beer. Please." He tossed me a cold one, and we clinked bottles on the tailgate, the hiss of carbonation sounding like the start of something new. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was escaping anything. I wasn't running, fixing, or surviving. I was just living. The gavel had fallen, the noise had faded, and the silence that remained wasn't heavy anymore. It was freedom. 3 months later, my life was quiet again, the good kind of quiet, the kind that hums like distant waves instead of echoing with panic. I transferred to my company's San Diego office, found an apartment near the bay, and started sleeping through the night for the first time in a year. The air smelled like salt and possibility. Kate's chaos had burned itself out. For a while, she played the victim online. Long captions about emotional trauma, filtered selfies paired with Bible verses. But the internet has a short attention span and a long memory. Eventually, someone found the court records. Screenshots spread, comments shifted, sympathy curdled into silence. Her new boyfriend, some guy she met at a gym according to mutual friends, vanished 2 weeks after that. Deleted photos, unfollowed accounts. Couldn't blame him. No one wants to date a cautionary tale. Her mother, though, wasn't done. She mailed a handwritten letter to my parents' house, full of self-pity and moral outrage. Called me cruel, ungrateful, and unmanly for abandoning a woman in crisis. My mom read it, snorted, grabbed a Sharpie, and wrote in all caps across the top, "Your daughter shredded his passport." Then she mailed it back. No note, no return address. Just sharp injustice. I framed that story in my mind as proof that dignity can have a sense of humor. Work thrived. My boss called me a phoenix, which felt overly poetic for an IT manager, but I appreciated the sentiment. I poured myself into projects, mentored junior staff, started running again. Every small thing, a quiet morning, an empty inbox, a walk without tension, felt like reclaiming territory I hadn't realized I'd lost. Madison and I stayed in touch. At first it was case updates, then small talk, then actual friendship. Once a month, we'd grab coffee at a place near the courthouse. She always showed up early, laptop open, hair pulled back, sharp as ever. "You're one of the few who ran when they saw the red flags," she said once, stirring her coffee. "Most people stay and drown, trying to fix what's already rotten." "I didn't run fast enough," I said. "You ran soon enough," she countered. "That's what matters." We sat there in comfortable silence, the kind you don't have to fill when 2 people have already seen the worst and survived it. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think about that shredded passport, how something so small, so symbolic, had cracked open the illusion I'd been living in. I used to replay that moment with anger. Now I saw it for what it was, the start of my escape. 3 weeks of hell, traded for a lifetime of peace. Fair deal. People like Kate don't start with scissors and a passport. They start small, guilt over a dinner, a comment about your friends, a suggestion that becomes a rule. Control is quiet until it isn't. If someone ever tells you they're fixing your life by destroying what's yours, don't negotiate. Don't rationalize. Run. Love doesn't cage you. It doesn't shrink you to fit its comfort zone. Real love expands you, it builds space, not walls. I don't regret marrying her, though. Every mistake has its tuition fee, and mine cost exactly $350, the price of an emergency passport. The best investment I've ever made. Because it didn't just get me to London. It got me back to myself. Now, when I board planes, I smile a little at the customs line. The passport agent scans the book, stamps the page, and hands it back with a neutral "safe travels." They have no idea how much that phrase means to me now. Safe travels. Free travels. My travels.